Hey guys, Sean Terry here, and in this video, we have an interview with Justin Fairbanks, probably the best realtor slash wholesaler I know. They have combined their businesses and is crushing it up in Bend, Oregon. And he's going to talk about the new real estate lawsuit that went down. He's also talking about, and I'm asking questions about how a realtor can become a wholesaler and what that looks like. Maybe talking to your brokerage, the disclosures that need to happen, the mindset when you're actually a realtor and representing people and a wholesaler and working on your own behalf. What does that look like? So he is, like I said, the best person I know that's crushing it in both arenas as a realtor and a wholesaler. And he is going to, in this interview, we're going to go in deep about how you as a realtor can add wholesaling to a part of your business. We actually do a comparison when it comes to income and a commission versus a spread and a fee as a wholesaler and what that income looks like. So it's a really great interview if you are a realtor and want to transition to a wholesaler or just add it to your business. Now, he said something really interesting that, and he's in Oregon. He goes, usually in Oregon from, anywhere from the winter time in Oregon, it's kind of slows down. But having a nationwide wholesale company, it is able to bridge that when his real estate, realtor business is slow, his wholesaling business continues to operate. And if anything happens in his, wholesaling business where it kind of slows down, then his realtor business does well. So they complement each other really well. And he shares about how that works. So let's get into it. On the other side of this, we'll rock the house.
I can't take no loss, yeah. I don't even know what it costs, yeah. I hit the ground, then it go off, yeah. Hit the ground, then it go off, yeah, yeah. Run it, ooh. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my
Sean Terry here, and I have Justin Fairbanks on the line, and we are talking about being a realtor, what's going on as in the realtor world right now with lawsuit and everything, and wholesaling houses nationwide. So just a little bit my perspective on Justin. He is by far out of every realtor slash investor I know, the smartest, well-versed realtor slash wholesaler that I've met, that I know, and he does incredible at being a realtor and does incredible about being wholesaling, and he mixes them together in a way which is awesome. And he knows the difference of what hat he's wearing and how he puts them together and has a great business. So I asked him to come on here to share, because we have a lot of realtors right now that follow us, that watch what we do. And I don't think we've ever done an interview when it comes to, how realtors can do wholesaling and how you can kind of separate those two roles and in representing a seller. So he's on here, and I appreciate his time. Thank you so much for being here. So how's it going up there in Bend, Oregon?
It's not bad. I think spring's finally here. We've had snow far back as maybe a week or two ago, and now the sun's out. So it seems like markets are kind of picking up. We've had, things have been moving in the right direction with the wholesale business as far as lead flow and getting all the kinks worked out, and now we're growing, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. So how long have you been a realtor?
Oh, geez. I'm going to date myself, but 17, 18 years. So long. Wow. Right when the last market crashed, so 2007.
Yeah.
And I was in Las Vegas then. So it was literally like ground zero.
Yeah. So you've been a realtor, and you're actively doing deals. You're actively listing properties. You're actively finding deals around Bend, Oregon. You pretty much go all over Oregon.
Yeah.
Deals there.
Yeah, we do deals all over. Now, anything kind of out of area, just refer it out. I think we'll probably touch on the why on that in a little while. It'll probably come into the discussion, but so we focus locally, and then wholesale and and do this business nationally, which is great. Gives us a lot of insight into what's going on around the country and locally. So allows us to serve people better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. All right, so let's talk. And so for everyone watching, we're going to talk about being a realtor and also a wholesaler and what that looks like. We're going to talk about the real estate lawsuit and how that, in his perspective of doing this for close to 20 years, how it's going to impact realtors going forward and how they get paid. My wife's been a realtor for, I don't know, probably a lot less than you, about 12, 13 years. She's wondering what's going to happen. So I told her I was doing this interview today. So she goes, I want to know what he says. So anyway, so, we're going to talk about that and how to thrive in both. So first off, let's talk about this, cause it's so timely, this real estate lawsuit, that came down, and it takes an effect in July, I believe. So give me the overview picture, and then how do you think it's going to impact realtors on the listing side and then on the buy side?
Okay. Well, so first, we won't be able, you can't search by what's being offered for commissions and things. So there's going to be more steps to communicate, okay, is this seller offering commissions? Are they not? I think one of the positive things, though, will be that everybody's going to be using buyer broker agreements. So, kind of like an employment contract, it'll be a little more clear to the consumer what they're paying, who's responsible for what, and what the realtor, what their job duties really are. Now, every state will have a disclosure pamphlet that says, an agency disclosure that says all the things you're supposed to be doing. I think most people kind of gloss over that. I think those things are going to become a little bit more important to make sure everybody understands what's going on. There's nothing to prohibit sellers from offering commissions to buyers brokers. I think, the part that'll be kind of the pain is like making all these calls and texts to find out what people are offering or not offering. And so that the buyer can be aware of what their financial commitment will be going in. I don't think this helps entry-level buyers who may need concessions for closing costs and maybe down payment assistance or whatever. I think it hurts them a lot because that's more money that's going to come out of their pockets.
So you said a lot right there. So let's
representation.
Yeah, you said a whole lot of information right there. So let's unpack.
Hopefully, I kept it pretty simple. That's kind of how I like to do things. Just try to keep them simple and straightforward.
Make it easy. All right. So the lawsuit itself. So this group got together. They sued National Association of Realtors, and they basically said that they're colluding with the MLS and realtors about keeping price high because of commissions, and you can't whatever. So I don't really know details of it, but it was was it like a 431 million, 437, something like that? Yeah.
And there's been a bunch of them though. So, I mean, once one settles, somebody else jumps in and files another one because at the end of the day, there's one group of people getting paid on this. Mm-hmm. There's one group of people, and it's the people that file these. It's not the actual consumers. The attorneys are the ones making all the money. They see an easy gravy train to jump on these and try to, squeeze money out of everybody. For the most part, it's never been my experience. I've never dealt with it in a couple thousand transactions. I've never dealt with anybody colluding on commissions or any of that kind of stuff. And I've never actually known anyone that goes in and would try to search MLS based on what the commissions are and only show those. So I feel like this is kind of pointing at like the very bottom feeders of the industry, the people that you probably don't want in it anyway, that are doing this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, it's 2024. Almost everyone can search online and find properties that fit what they're looking for. They can search all the major websites. They can find properties on their own. They're going to find out if you're not showing them things, they're not presenting properties to them that fit what they're looking for. They can find them. And most agents are setting up searches on either their MLS portal or a personal website or service to provide listings to their buyers, their clients' inboxes. So some of this stuff seems like it's a little a little far-fetched. And they may have found somebody somewhere who wasn't doing it right, and then they don't, they jumped all over it.
Yeah, I do. I think you have these fringe maybe that are steering toward the higher commission properties. But, like you, like my wife, like other people I know, they have a client and they want to serve that client and help them find the property that they love, and they're not looking and showing properties based upon a commission. Now, some probably are, but it's probably few and far between that are actually making that happen. But anyways, the bottom line is they won. Now this thing comes down in July. So let's talk, specifically about the listing agent. So you got a property, you have someone that wants to list, and that listing agent now, the conversation with the seller is what? Is it like, okay, you don't have to pay the 3%, but now let's negotiate my 3% or 2% or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And how does that look?
Well, okay, so part of that should have always been a discussion that the commissions were negotiable. And if you do, if you lay out what your services are going to be and what you're going to do to earn your commissions, there's usually not a big fight over it.
Right.
Sometimes, they may reduce for various reasons. Maybe, you need to do it because equity's tight. They need a certain amount of money to purchase their next home or whatever. You do what you have to do to help these people achieve their goal. Now, the professionals were still, the people that are very good in this industry are still going to make their full commissions. They're
Right.
worth what they're being paid. It's the lower skilled people that aren't as good, that are just kind of, going through the motions. Those are the ones who are going to see a dramatic decrease in their value in the marketplace.
Right.
I think that, and then on the other side, I think you also are going to have the discussion, okay, hey, we don't have to offer a commission to a buyer's broker anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but you don't have to. And then that should lead to an open dialogue between realtor and client. I think a lot of sellers will still see the value in attracting buyers and their brokers with a commission, but there may be some that say, no, I don't want to. And that's fine too. And then, what's going to happen is after about 6 months, we're going to have some info on how it really works in the real world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right now, it's all theory because it just hasn't been done yet. So I think we just give it some time and we'll see how it all works.
Well, I think, and I'm not a realtor, and my wife is though, but if I was a realtor and I want to, sell a house, then I would want to motivate the people that are going to sell, the house. So, and that would be an upfront, discussion. I tell the seller, say, listen, it's, behoove us to have that commission in there to attract those buyers. So we can get the most amount of eyeballs on the property and not have to worry about that. So when someone calls and they say, the conversation's like, hey, yeah, we have a 3% or 2% built in right off the top. So you don't have to worry about it. Bring your best client. Let's go.
Yeah,
you want to move the property. You don't want it to sit there and then, worry about 2%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe if you're not offering commission, you're going to end up paying some buyer closing costs, or you may have to make more repairs to a property to help a buyer out who doesn't necessarily have the cash. Because in like today's markets, most of the higher price markets, all across the West, prices are high and rates are high. And so buyers are getting squeezed hard trying to get into the market, especially the first time buyer who's just trying to get into the market. It's getting harder and harder. And if you're putting another hurdle in front of that buyer, you're decreasing your buyer pool if you're not offering commission, because they're going to need more help with closing costs or some other kind of concession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think of that. I was thinking more from the realtor perspective, but actually from the buyer perspective, if the seller's not going to pay the buyer, then the buyer's agent, then the buyer has to pay the buyer's agent, and that's going to come out of pocket unless lenders build in that commission into the loan, which they very well might. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know FHA was working on, I think they've already come out and said they're going to continue to allow a higher, like some of those I think are like 6% concessions. They're still going to allow those higher concession rates because somebody understands that they're going to be needed to help some of those first-time buyers and some of those buyers that maybe don't have quite enough to cover everything and still qualify for the loans if they're making down payment, paying their closing costs, appraisals, inspections, all this other stuff.
All right. So great answers. So you're doing great. So now let's talk about the buyer conversation with the, see, they have a client and want to go look at a house. What does that conversation look like? Do you have to say, okay, great, let me go show you 5 houses. But before I do that, we got to figure out our commission first and how you're going to pay me before I can go take you places, right? That seems stupid too, because it's like counterintuitive because you want to give value first, right? Deliver value first, then get compensated. Now you have to have that conversation ahead of time. Good
brokers, good agents will have basically a buyer orientation packet or a buyer representation packet where they're going to go through just like on a listing, and they're going to lay out all the services that they provide. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to get you to your goals. And obviously, during that conversation, you need to extract the information from them of what they want to achieve, what they're, find out their mortgage qualifications, whether they're paying cash, kind of where they are in that process. You don't really want them to be out showing properties until you know they're qualified. And then you need to have the additional discussion of the commissions. Okay, hey, some sellers are going to be offering a commission. That's great. Some are not. As much as I like you, I still, we can't work for free. So this is what we charge for our representation. And, just like you were saying, it's like, okay, well, how are you going to handle that? Because it will affect how much you may affect your purchasing power.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
And so one thing that has been lacking in the industry for a long time was really clear buyer representation agreements. Most people weren't using them. Every brokerage and company probably suggests that you do it, but it wasn't a really uniformly adopted practice across the industry for the last 20 plus years. So that's going to change. So before, and I think on some level it's a good thing. Get everybody on the same page before we start the process. Make sure we understand what we're doing, what it's going to cost, what each party is responsible for, and then get going.
Yeah, I like that too. That means you got transparency. Everybody's on the same page, and it's good. Okay, so so that was great explanation. So let's now get into wholesaling and being a realtor. So when it comes to that, and I got someone that's a realtor, and they ask the question and say, "Hey, can I wholesale houses as a realtor?" And do I have to talk to my broker first? Do I have to explain what I do? Is there disclosures in the contract that I have to say? Is there disclosures in my marketing that I have to do? How do I wholesale and be an agent at the same time?
Sure. The simplest answer is 2 parts. One is yes, and 2, disclose it. Tell everybody that you're licensed. It's not a secret. Don't make it a secret. Tell people that the state you're licensed in. On my end, it's in the contract. I could be doing a deal in Ohio or Pennsylvania or wherever, and it still says the state that it's very clear the state that I'm licensed in, and the disclosures are very clear that we're not representing you as a realtor, broker, agent, and we're not earning a commission or any of that stuff. And I know you're personally familiar with the language, but most people out there, I think, aren't. Just tell people. I've never had anyone care. No one's ever cared. And we don't gloss over it. We don't try to blow past it. We explain it very clearly because it's important. Because it's implied when you're licensed that you do have kind of an advantage because you're in the industry.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that you just tell people that. And you explain like, hey, I'm not licensed in your state, but I'm licensed in this other state. And, like, we don't want it to be a secret or you to find out or do something and see that later that I'm licensed and I didn't tell you. It's just so much easier. Like, this is like maybe a separate business from that, but they're related. And yes, the knowledge and skills that I've acquired through that business helped me with this one.
Yeah, and I like that too. And all of our contracts, it states that we're investors to make a profit, right? That's why we're engaging in this contract in the first place. We're here to make a profit. We don't know how we're going to make a profit just yet. It could be multiple different methods, right? And oh, by the way, we're not representing you. Gail will get an attorney. We're not making a commission. We're making a profit, right? There's a difference between a profit and commission. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
That's a pretty similar process as to when you buy something off the MLS, in your home state or wherever. It's like you just make a note in the contract that you're a licensed agent with a financial interest in the property, and then you're covered. Everyone knows.
So contractually disclose, verbally disclose you're a realtor. And if you're doing nationwide, you say, hey, listen, I'm a realtor in Oregon. I'm not a realtor in Florida, but just so you know, I'm a realtor. And then you put in the contract and disclose. So what about, we've had agents that say, what do I tell my broker? How do I handle my broker?
Okay. Well, if you're doing deals in your home state, it may be a little bit different because you may have to submit those to your broker because you're a party to that transaction and it may fall under their responsibility. The best thing you can do is sit down and tell your broker what you're doing. If your broker's not comfortable with what you're doing, it's a free. Do what you want to do and your company's not supportive.
Right.
But for the most part, if your broker understands what you're doing, they may have a couple steps for you. They may want to see your contracts and understand. They may ask for a couple edits for you to address liability or anything like that on their end. Most brokers probably are going to do something like that.
Cool. Yeah. And most people I've talked to that have talked to brokers, there's a handful out there that are, you can't wholesale and you can't be a realtor at the same time. And they just switch brokerage, right? They just switch, it's very easy to do. You just switch to brokerage.
Yeah.
But most of them, if you tell them what you're doing, they'll say, listen, I have this hat on over here and I'm a realtor and I'm representing someone to buy and sell. And I got this hat over here and I'm an investor, and I'm, buying on my own behalf, making a profit on my own behalf. Those are two different hats representing versus working with yourself. So most brokers are pretty, okay with it. So, I would think it would, wouldn't be a problem.
And if you're offering, where I see some of the folks tripping up though too, is they offer all this stuff off market and they don't really disclose that they're licensed. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of that because if you're like me, you probably get a bunch of emails from wholesalers with with their properties and stuff. And I know some of them have licenses and they never really disclose it. They probably should. I mean, just put it on the bottom of the email somewhere. No one cares.
Right.
But I know in some states, they want you to register as a wholesaler now if you're not licensed, and that can be a little tricky. But end of the day, right? I think
didn't Washington just come out with that?
I think Oregon's coming out with it. Washington maybe. I know I had a discussion with a friend the other day about it, and I'm like, well, like anything, it's a hurdle. You just have to figure out a workaround that complies and keeps you out of hot water. My best guess is they'll ask the title and escrow companies to enforce that for them. The state will, on some level, check to make sure they're registered. I don't know that they'll actually do it. So on my end, it's kind of a non-issue where I am because, well, I'm already licensed, so I don't have to really deal with it. Just disclose.
Yeah, so that leads to wholesalers. Should they get licensed with all these, these laws coming across and this, that, and like I know Illinois, you got to be licensed. So should they just get their license and just get it out of the way?
If it makes sense for them, because you can join non-MLS offices and be a licensed broker. Like there's non-MLS offices out there that means you're not necessarily a realtor, but you're a licensed agent, which I think would probably suffice for compliance with what we're talking about.
Right.
Like they could join a non-MLS company, not be a member of the MLS, not have to pay all the fees and all of that stuff, and have pretty low barrier to entry to just have a real estate license.
I never heard of that. That sounds cool. So
yeah, I mean, you can be licensed without.
You have the license, so it suffices, but you don't have to pay. Like my wife has all these fees she has to take this, the classes, and she has, all the fees she has to pay to.
Yeah, you're probably going to, be subject to your continuing ed requirements, and they vary by state, but that's usually every couple of years. And it's not really hard, and it's not overly expensive, but yeah, it's definitely an option, and I'm sure every Every state probably has some kind of non-MLS offices for people like that. I know there are in my state. And sometimes people who go, we call them like referral agents. So maybe they're kind of not really active in the business. They don't want to pay the fees and the dues and all that other stuff to be part of, NAR or their local state association of realtors, but they want to keep their license active until maybe they either get back in or the license, kind of expires, and they can still do referral business and collect a referral fee from, a license company that pays that broker who distributes to that agent. So, there's options out there. So if it came down to it and you had to be licensed somewhere, that would probably be a great way for wholesalers to be compliant, is to find a non-MLS office and, and go that route and have a valid license, but be, a practicing realtor. Because that comes with a whole bunch of, it comes with some expense, but it also comes with some ethical duties too.
Right. That's great. That's a great idea. All right. So now I'm a agent and I'm also a wholesaler, and I have a website and I'm sending like Google AdWords or Bing there. Do I have to disclose on my website?
Depends on your state requirements. So, in certain states, most of the time you have to, there's advertising requirements. In my state, there's certain requirements you have to put. It can be a little bit challenging because, that's a separate business. It's not really a brokerage business at all. And so that part can be kind of tough. Those are probably case by case, state by state questions that, you wouldn't really have a one size fits all answer for. To me,
but you
if
put
you're
down in the footer, you have your address and stuff like that, and copyright information and licensed realtor type, and have your license information down there.
That probably would suffice. I mean, you're not advertising for brokerage services per se, but you do want your consumer to know that you're licensed. For sure, you need to put it in your contracts. So once you get to that point, but at the end of the day, it can't hurt just to put it there. I haven't heard a whole lot about anybody being harassed about that kind of stuff. I think, everybody talks to enough wholesalers, that 9 out of 10 are very poorly educated and inexperienced. And there's a small percent that are very good, that are professional, that are running really good businesses. They're doing stuff the right way. But overwhelmingly, the calls come in and it's someone reading from their script and I'm like, well, I could basically answer all the questions for you. And, I know what's on your piece of paper sitting there.
Yeah. You got the scripts.
And it's usually, I'm new, I don't have any properties, but there's a million of those. And the experienced wholesalers have their own buyer list. They have their own clientele. They're not out hitting Google and Bing or whatever looking for a buyer. They're working internally through their networks.
Okay, so now let's say you got a realtor watching this right now, and a realtor knows wholesaling, heard of wholesaling, but never's done wholesaling. How would you compare income from being a realtor and then income from being a wholesaler on a per deal basis? So you got a wholesale deal that's $450,000, and you got a real estate deal that's $450,000, and you're gonna essentially flip them, right? So an agent, because a lot of agents, they just think commission, right? Their mind is all based around 2%, 3%, 2%. Well, what's my percentage or the commission do I get off this house? But as a wholesaler, you're not getting commission. You got a buy price and a sell price and a spread. So
yeah, and so if you're a wholesaler trying to work on 3% commissions, you're going to be out of the business really fast. Your spreads aren't enough to pay for marketing, you're not going to make enough money to do anything. Mm-hmm. So even if you're in a high price state, like a coastal state, they're probably close. I think your wholesales probably still should be twice as much. Yeah. If you're in a Midwest state, where values, or your price points are in the 1 to 200s and 300s, like you're probably that multiple is probably much bigger between for a wholesale versus a commission. So I mean, in a good market, at least 2 times, maybe 3. I mean, we know internally we all know what our minimums are. My minimums are same as your minimums. I mean, we've all kind of talked about that, and so you'd have to do like $1 million, get $1 million property to even be a minimum, because you have to pay for all the advertising and all the marketing and people and stuff. And so
right.
I think one thing that the realtors don't realize is how much you have to spend to market and grow a wholesale business, versus what a lot of these agents are spending on their marketing. They're not spending any money marketing and promoting their services, and they expect to earn a nice living. It doesn't really work that way.
No, it's just like, without marketing, you don't have a business, right? And it doesn't matter if you're a realtor, a wholesaler, it doesn't matter if you're a bar, whatever, unless, you have happy hour every night, something. But
and I think you would probably agree with this, is that the thing that I like about wholesaling is that once you're good at it, it's a math equation. Put this much in, this much cost per lead, this much minimum spread, and your leads per contract, just your basic metrics, and your deals, conversions per lead. It's the math is a little bit simpler. It's a numbers game, which a lot of people, there's so many people in the business that came from other things, that have run other businesses, that understand the simplicity of it and don't overthink it, and they do really well.
Yeah.
And you just cut your head like,
if you look at the numbers, right? So, our average deal size is a little bit over $30,000. So you related to, $1 million property at 3%, $30,000. So now if you live in possibly Southern California, that's no problem, because everything's over $1 million. But, if you're living in Ohio, it's pretty difficult to get a $30,000 commission. So, but we are average, and we do deals in Ohio, we do deals in Oregon, we do deals in California, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, all over the place. But average deal size is $30,000 plus. So, and you can look at that, and then you're absolutely right on the metrics, because if you know your numbers, how many leads it takes to get a contract, and then your closing percentage, well, then you can just predict exactly what your revenue is going to be. And then, agents do the same thing. Hey, I'm going to get leads from Zillow, or I'm going to get referrals. And then how many of those did it take to get an actual listing, and then to get it to close? But most, obviously, a lot of agents, I don't want to say most, but a lot of agents don't even know their metrics to be able to turn it into his numbers game. Obviously the most successful ones do, but same in this business. It's a business, but if you look at a comparison of metrics, and you're in a market that the average, the median home price is, say, $300,000, and 3%, you got $9,000 versus $30,000 in the same market. So, that's trying to get people to understand that, and then the epiphany goes off, and they're like, "Whoa!" And then they're like, "Okay, well, forget being a realtor. I'll still do my realtor thing. I get my referrals, I get my deals, but now, man, I can do some wholesaling, and this could be great."
Well, and then I think the other thing, and this is like always one of the things that you have to remember, is like, you're not tied to a bricks and mortar location. You're not tied to a town or city or one little market that can fluctuate up and down and be cold and hot. You can market and work anywhere, and you can live anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. Yes. But you're not tied to one area where you're in real estate. It's a lot of work to move a residential brokerage or your real estate license somewhere else and start over, because that, as a realtor, it's a people business. And if you're doing well, you're doing referral business, repeat clients, those kind of things. And it takes time to build that up. So if you're moving all over the place, it's hard to restart that. Are there people that can do it? Yes. There's people that are good at almost anything, but for the average person, that's a difficult ask. This business, you can run it from anywhere. You can run it from the beach in California. You can run it from your office in Phoenix. You can run it from Florida.
Yeah. Well, it's
There's
it because,
no,
realtors, they teach to farm an area, just like you said. You want to build
yeah,
those relationships with people. You want to be the go-to realtor. Anybody that has a house in your farmed area, they want to think of you to be able to do it. But now, if you want to pick up and move, right, you're kind of screwed, because now you're gonna have to build this farmed area into another area. So what's great about what we do
well,
national is that all you need is a computer, and you need a phone, and you need to be able to generate leads, and you can do deals. So
yeah, that's exactly it. And I think if COVID didn't teach you anything, it should have taught people that they need to be mindful, because if you live in certain states and places, shut everything down. Like there was no,
right.
they shut down a lot of these industries, and a lot of, in some places were wide open for business.
So one last question, and then we'll be done. So how has a realtor complemented your wholesaling business, and then how has wholesaling complemented your real estate business? Realtor
Okay,
business.
that's pretty easy. One is just the experience of dealing with lots of people over a long period of time, all sorts of buyers and sellers and clients. It gives you a wide breadth of experience. You obviously are going to understand. You can jump into any market and understand how to analyze it, comp properties, things like that. That part's pretty easy. That's a really good transferable skill for realtors to be able to price properties. My background was a little bit different than most agents, because we were doing REO business. We were doing foreclosures for a long time. So we were dealing with distressed properties, repairs, contractors, all sorts of stuff you see, because we do, in this business, you do deal with distressed properties and distressed people. So that gave me kind of a little bit different background, and maybe a head start on the wholesaling side of just understanding how some of that stuff works. I think as a realtor doing wholesale, that's probably the biggest thing, is just having the experience of dealing with people on the phone and in person, of like negotiating, working through pricing, explaining the process of how things work. Because if you're not doing that as a realtor, you're going to have a really hard time. You have to be able to lay out the process for getting to closing and getting to the next house, and have a timeline and some actionable steps, and make sure everybody knows what they're doing. I don't know that I answered half your question very well, though.
Well, yeah, and I think it is
From
being a
wholesale
realtor,
to
and yeah, and then
go ahead.
how wholesaling is complemented your real estate business, and because the real estate definitely helps your wholesaling, because you know how to comp, deals, you understand
Yeah.
houses and people, but wholesaling complement your real estate.
Mostly it just keeps you busy through the ups and downs, because like a lot of markets for residential real estate are slow in the winter, busy in the summer. They're very seasonal. This is not quite as seasonal. I think we, over the years noticed that maybe from Thanksgiving through New Year's is a little bit slow, but there's still people calling. There's still activity, more activity than probably with residential. But for the most part, it's really just kind of gives you the flexibility to be able to deal with the people that you want to deal with, versus taking, a lot of agents are taking any listing they can get, whether it's price, it's going to be priced right and be able to sell or not. I think that the skill transference is probably more from realtor to wholesaler versus wholesaler to realtor, because it's just kind of a completely different niche. Maybe it helps you deal with investors and those type of clients when they come through your business. It gives opportunities for us to sell properties, to some of our investors in other markets and things like that. But for the most part, I think the skill transference is better from realtor to wholesaler than the other way.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, though, because as a realtor, you do have seasonality in your market, but then as a wholesaler, if you're doing deals nationwide, it kind of supplements what you do. So you're not starving in the winter and thriving in the summer. You still get consistent business. And even if they're both doing just a couple deals a month, that's a pretty good living. You're making 2 deals on a wholesale deal, that's 60 grand. And then you got, 2 or 3 listings that are, closing or whatever. You're doing pretty good. You're making
and
definitely
then
way more than the average American.
oh yeah, for sure. And then like it's just I think if you can understand the marketing and how to scale from wholesale, you can do the same thing in real estate if you choose to.
Yeah.
I just it's not as exciting to try to scale something that ties you to a location in a market as much as is exciting to scale something that you can do from anywhere and have some freedom with your life, and versus being kind of tied to a spot.
A farm. So, all right, that was awesome. All right, so any advice for someone, a realtor considering becoming a realtor? You gave some incredible information. So
Yeah,
they're
this
thinking
is
about making that transition or kind of adding it as a supplemental way to make income. What do you think?
one, get with people who know what they're doing. Like call someone like you. Get get into the ecosystem and get around people that are doing things the right way, that are helping you, that are there to support. I think that's probably the smartest thing you can do, and it'll cut your learning curve. If you want to go try and figure out everything on your own, you're going to take a long and winding road. The road's winding enough. The ups and downs are tough as it is, and the path isn't really a straight. Always, most of us, me included, like not a straight line at all. And if you try and just jump from one thing to another, it's tough. So make a game plan, get some help, get some education systems, things like that, so that you can be successful.
Awesome.
Like faster, much faster.
Faster, yeah.
Because there's a lot of pitfalls. And if, like for me, like one of the most important things is like I stay in regular contact with other guys doing the same things, and we help each other. We talk about our problems every week. We're working on stuff, and like daily there's texts and stuff going out. Like it's not, it's great. It's, to me, it's fun because you can kind of get isolated if you just put your head down and kind of do this, and it can wear you down a little bit.
I agree. So you're in Bend, Oregon, but you do deals all across the country. You're a realtor in Bend, Oregon. So if anyone's listening right now, what would be the best way someone could get a hold of you? Let's say they have a deal in Oregon somewhere and they want to, for an agent or a JV deal or something. How would they get a hold of
you? The easiest way, just email me, justin@orhomesolutions.com, and we'll get it. I'll answer it. Happy to jump on the phone. Send me whatever, area you're looking at. Because, we have people all over, like just in the state, we have people all over as part of kind of a network of people that are a ton of investors. Like we're buying and selling stuff for investors all the time, daily. Yep. I think we bought one yesterday for an investor. We're going to buy another one tomorrow for an investor. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have people all over the state. Our network's really is great here. We can walk you through some of the pitfalls if you just need some help, doing it on your own. I think I spend a fair amount of time just helping other people, like just walking through some of the stuff that we're talking about now, like navigating that. I'm happy to do it. I'm always grateful for all the people that pick up the phone when I ask questions, because I ask, we all have a fair number of questions. We don't know everything. Yep. So don't feel like you have to do everything yourself. I mean, I'm not here to slow you down. I'll help you and point you in the right direction, just like you would. Right. All right. So I'll put that email down in the description below, so you can be able to see that, or we'll put it in the comments there. So if you want to email Justin, you have a deal out there, or you want to JV a deal, you have a deal listing or whatever, he can definitely help you out there. So that's awesome. Congratulations, Justin. Yeah. Appreciate your time. Yeah. Thank you for being here. I mean, we have, our network's really strong from, Oregon, Washington, California. So we're have people on the ground that can help you pretty much anywhere on the West Coast. Yeah, we got to stay away from the fires, stay away from the floods. And hey, what? And this came because we were looking at this yesterday. What's the deal with the insurance in California right now? Because a lot of insurance companies pulled out. Have you heard about that? I think because I've heard it a couple of times, and I can ask a couple of my buddies down there. I think a lot of it is the fires have just been so crazy there, and some of that is related to the power lines and their lack of forest management and things like that. The losses there have been so insane, and then they don't manage their water very well, and so they get flooding. I don't think it's a mystery that it snows in the Sierras during the winter, and during the winter tends to be a fair amount of rain some years. So I don't think that's ever changed. They can say whatever they want, but it keeps happening, and they keep having issues. So I think some of that, unfortunately, is probably, some of it's natural, but some of it is just poor management by the state.
Oh yeah.
And now these normal people have to suffer because they can't get insurance. I know we've had calls from people selling stuff, and we have to always ask, well, property insurable, fire losses in Northern California. There's been quite a few of those. I'm sure you get them too. And so that has to be on the checklist. And the rep won't necessarily know to ask that, but you have to check it before you go sign anything.
Oh yeah. That's crazy. Cool. Just thought I'd ask that. I just ran across it yesterday.
Yeah. No.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. Yep.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Get a hold of Justin. Any deals out there? Great interview. Thank you. And we'll see you on the other side. Now, was that not an awesome interview? Love Justin Banks. So laid back, but doing an incredible job in the business. Hope you absolutely love that. Now, below is his email. If you have any questions or anything like that, you can reach out to him. If you're a realtor, got deals up there, you want JV deals, just have questions. He's an awesome guy. He might be able to help you out. So hope that helps. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. God bless.